So I'm going to get started here. So, local sourcing and marketing tips for food service businesses. Thank you so much for attending and taking the time today. My name is Alex Palzewicz, and so a little bit about me is I've got about 12 plus years of hospitality experience. I've worked in both the front of house as a server, bartender, also in the back of house as a dishwasher. I've worked garde to grill cook, food expediter. So I've got a lot of this kind of on the ground experience. I also have a degree in hospitality management from Northern Michigan University. And then my roles that I'm kind of presenting in today is I'm the market manager for the UP Food Exchange online marketplace, which I'm going to talk more about later. And then I'm also the UP local food coordinator for Taste the Local Difference. Again, I'm going to talk both about my relationships with those roles as we move along here. So there's two main topics today. We're first going to address local purchasing, both why and how, as well as how to market that. So when we think about that old saying, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, does it really make a sound? I kind of feel the same way about local purchasing. If you're buying from local people and you're not talking about it, your customers aren't going to know about those relationships. And then I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, the Eastern Upper Peninsula Regional Planning and Development folks. They have been both a huge supporter of farms and farmers markets in the area, as well as providing the ability to be able to host some different great webinars like this. And I'm going to talk more about them and our relationship and how you might be able to leverage some of the support to help your business. So the first thing I want to talk about is why local, right? So the most important thing is it really helps build value. It builds value in your own goods and your own services that your business provides, which I'm going to talk more about as we continue. But I think some of the ways that it's really evident is that it builds value in your community. You're putting money right back into the pockets of your neighbors and folks that hopefully will be frequenting your business and maybe bringing friends and using that word of mouth to spread about how you've been supporting them. One of the things I think is really important, it builds value in your employees, especially as I'm sure a lot of folks are, especially this time of year, everyone's looking for staff, right? So, through the years, I remember when I got the first job that had kind of this focus on local, and I had to know about the vendors. It was part of my job. We spent a little time each week or each month kind of diving deeper into the folks we were sourcing from. And for me, there was such a big change, and that's when I stopped looking at hospitality necessarily as just a way to pay the bills and wondered how I could build a career around it. So I think it really helps empower your employees and gives them some value in their own role in your business. And then it adds value to your brand, which we're going to talk about more when we go into marketing. So, the last thing I wanted to share too, I didn't talk about, but all the photos you're going to be seeing throughout the PowerPoint, I've taken, I don't mean that as a brag, I mean that as, I think when we're talking about marketing and local food, we're really sharing the story about the tastes of the UP and the flavor of who we are and what we can do. So all the photos that you're seeing in the backgrounds on the slides today have all been taken at Upper Peninsula businesses and farms. So just a little fun fact there. So getting started, there's a lot of questions you need to think about, and don't necessarily consider these questions as like, if you answer yes or no, that can I source local? No, I've answered no to all these. It's kind of how will you source local based on how you answer these questions. So, who is your current or potential customer type that you want to use local to appeal to? For example, maybe your business, you don't have the ability to really up your prices necessarily all the time, but you do know that your customers are looking for some local options. Maybe like a Friday fish fry, you usually have all these different great fish options. So maybe something like adding just a local fish option, letting your customers choose, having it be more around events, more on those random types of things. If you don't necessarily have the ability to work that into your margins, versus maybe you have a maybe you're a higher end restaurant, maybe you have a little bit more wiggle room and your customers are coming in already. The customers that are coming in like local is something that they already kind of value. So if you're not already doing it, adding that will help build upon value in that type of customer. So just think about who you're marketing to. It doesn't have to be a certain pay scale, but just think about how it pulls on how they care about their community, and kind of thinking about how you're going to talk about that relationship and work that in, and talk about that relationship to your audience. So does your menu allow flexibility or seasonality? Some folks are changing them constantly, and so that's great. Working local into that can be really easy if you're changing your menu a lot. But I know a lot of places, there's the same menu all year round. So how can you maybe use chalkboard specials or private events to leverage some local purchasing? The next is, do you have the staff or the labor time to implement processing and the extra attention that's needed for some of these ingredients? Maybe you don't, maybe you're struggling to find staff, which I totally understand. So, how can you think about maybe value added products, like maybe just serving a local jam instead of Smuckers on the table, or sourcing local coffee in your restaurant if you don't already, as well as maybe you do have staff, maybe you do have time, but money's an issue. So if you have the folks, can you buy in bulk? Can you negotiate some relationships and put a little time into those ingredients with staff, and get lower prices by being able to have those types of relationships? And then the other thing, we're going to talk more about this, but how will you manage all of these relationships and logistics? You might already source from many different folks, so that might not be something new to you. But if it isn't something that you've done, maybe you've only traditionally worked with one distributor, how are you going to manage, ordering from different folks? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a barrier, but just it's good to think about that before you get started. So I also want to say, you define local. Now, Taste the Local Difference defines local as the state of Michigan. The UP Food Exchange defines local as the Upper Peninsula. But really, your business is it's up to you how you define local. And kind of the way I like to say that is, you're not always going to be able to make the best choice, right? You can't always maybe buy next door because of prices, but maybe you can choose something from Minnesota or something from the Midwest versus something from California. So I am, of course, here advocating for our local producers of both the Upper Peninsula region and the state of Michigan, but know that every decision is really important and is valuable. So it doesn't always have to be from those folks. So some of the ways that you can kind of slowly work this in is crop planning and bulk price negotiation with farmers. Now, this is something you definitely would want to do more in the months of January and February, or you can work with someone like myself, which I'll talk more about with the UP Food Exchange. But, talking to farmers before they're buying seeds, before they're putting things in the ground, and letting them know that you want to be able to purchase a case of carrots once a week from whenever they're ready in, say, September to when they run out, maybe in February. So having those conversations with folks ahead of time so that they can work it into their business plan, and then being able to negotiate, since you're going to be buying those bulk or have that relationship in place, how can you negotiate the price a little bit for your profit margin? Also, things too, like, maybe you, for example, have a burger on the menu and there's an egg on top. Maybe you can't work in local eggs completely, especially if, like, maybe you're a breakfast place, it might be a little hard. But what if you have the egg that is the add-on always a local egg? Again, going back to that fish example, if you have a Friday night fish fry, how do you make sure there's a local option if you don't have that already? So starting with things that really are those high ticket items. And then last but not least, just start slow. You don't have to dive in all at once. Maybe it's a salad dressing where you use honey instead of sugar on one of your specialty salads. Maybe a few weeks out of the year, especially with tourism season, right? So say you don't have to worry so much in the busy season about your relationships with your distributors, those contracts you might be in, you have a little bit of wiggle room. Why not walk down to the farmer's market, grab some local tomatoes, get it on a salad, snap a photo, tag that farm, and talk about that relationship. Even if it's now and then, those are still things that your customers are looking for. And it helps the farm, and that's the other thing we'll be talking about with marketing is, this marketing is going to help add brand awareness for you, but it'll help the farm too. So there's that great mutual benefit. So just some tips for relationship building. So the first thing I like to talk about is, you're a farmer. If you really build a great relationship with them, they're going to cater to your needs, and they're in your neighborhood. So sometimes you might be in a jam. They might be able to help you out. Say if you're low on a product and you can't get it in until the next day from somewhere else, they might have that in the field. They might have beef in the freezer that can help you get through that day. And you'll find as you grow these relationships with farmers, they're going to be there and they're going to show up for you. But the most important thing when you get started, I think, is finding a common ground for communication. And that's for both farmers and chefs included, as well as anyone, who works in this industry. We're all really busy. So I think having that conversation of how do you want to communicate? Is it text message? Is it Facebook Messenger? Is it email? What works best for the both of you? And being willing to maybe do a little wiggle room depending on folks' needs. But I think just making sure you start with that when you're building that relationship. And then don't be afraid to talk about financials, to ask about food safety. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that to give you some tools to kind of get started if you're not as familiar with food safety. But ask the questions, what practices do they have in place? Do they have any certifications that you can know about that you can also market as well? So don't be afraid to start with that right away, because that'll help you also determine if that business is, how often you'll be able to source from that business. You might talk to folks, you might just be buying from them maybe once or twice, versus other folks who are more established food producers are going to want to build a long-term relationship with you. So knowing where their capacity is, I guess, is a better way to put it. Are they able to meet your need in a big way, or maybe is it just starting slow for the both of you? So I wanted to have some industry examples here for folks to be able to look at. Again, I'm going to be sharing both this recording and this PowerPoint, and all of these are linked so you can check them out, but I can just talk about why I chose them. So first we have Millie's Hancock. It's a pizza place that's in Hancock, and I really love what they do. So of course they've got all their mainstay pizzas, but they have a special pizza each week, and more often than not, those toppings on that pizza are local. So it allows them to make, of course, maybe not always making the biggest of purchases, but making really important, consistent purchases to local producers and building those relationships. And then they just take a really great photo, throw it on Instagram, and those specials are selling out for them because people are following them for those types of things. Another example here is Folk from Detroit. I wanted to share their example because I think it's really great how they pivoted in the last year. Kind of a cliche word at this point, but yes, the changes that they made. So they went from being a pretty traditional cafe to having a really great kind of market set up in their space. And now they're still using their kitchen. But now the thing I love most about what they're doing is these curated boxes. So the boxes include both specialty producer items or produce from local folks, maybe local coffee, some local produce, but then they also have items that they're making in their kitchen, like not necessarily meal prep, but some of these things like stock or spreads, things that folks can take home and save the little time in the kitchen, but still make sure that their kitchen is being used. So I just really like the way that they've pivoted. The other one here is Belgium Town Bar and Restaurant. I really like to showcase them because for me, I'm from the Upper Peninsula. They're in Menominee County, and they've got lots of taxidermy on the walls. They're kind of that local supper club feel, and it's been really cool to see how a business like theirs has been able to use events to really build those relationships with local producers. And I think it's great too, because they have great traffic, especially around holidays, hunting season. But what they do is they schedule these events kind of on the fringe part of the season when things are slower. So it gives them an opportunity to both have a reason for customers to come in, but it's just, again, gets that relationship building happening in their community. And then last but not least, I wanted to mention Bodega Cafe, which is in Marquette. I really love them as an example for like relationship building and kind of working with producers to create a product that the cafe can use and market, and just building that, having those conversations, which I think is really important in doing these types of specialty items with them. But then they talk about it, it's on the table, it's on the menu, and they talk about the different producers that they use really well. So I promised some tools. So I'm going to kind of get away from the PowerPoint so I can utilize these tools, show you how to use them. But again, they'll all be linked. So when you get the PowerPoint after this presentation, you'll be able to click on these and follow along. So let me escape out of here. So the first I want to show is the seasonality guide. I just, again, like this, if produce, working with local producers is new to you, knowing when stuff is ready can be really helpful. I always kind of giggle, even though I know just years ago I probably would make the same mistakes when a chef is asking for peas in December. So just kind of having an idea of when things are going to be ready. You can see there also are a lot of storage crops here, or things that do. So here, the hoop house types of crops. So you can see it's helpful when you're putting together those menus ahead of time, or when you're having those conversations with farms doing that crop planning. This again is something free, you could download this offline, but if you would like a nice kind of glossy copy for your kitchen, feel free to put your email address in the chat and I will follow up with you and get you one mailed out so you can put it in your kitchen. And then the next one is going to be, this is the Taste the Local Difference, Find Food and Farm app. So this is kind of, I figured this would be a good point to talk a little bit about Taste the Local Difference and my role. So I'm the Upper Peninsula Local Food Coordinator, which means my job is to work with farmers, fisheries, basically all of these folks that you're seeing icons for in the Upper Peninsula. Now we work with farms and farmers markets and fisheries at no cost because we really want to be able to provide a food access resource. We do offer enhanced listings for those folks. And then we partner with different people like restaurants like yourself, retailers, food producers. And the idea is we're trying to create this connected network where just take a moment to show how to use it. It's pretty simple, but you'll see there's different icons that you can click on. So I'm going to choose farm. I'm going to go, let me make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to choose farm. I've already got a zip code in here. I believe this is the zip code for Curtis in the Eastern Upper Peninsula. The most important thing is to grab this search radius. Let's do 25 miles. So we're looking at farms, Curtis zip code, and about 25-mile radius. We'll filter those results. And now you can see we've at least got basic contact information for the farms in the area, as well as some of them, if they have a complete listing, talks about different things that they do. Down here we can see like Be Wise Farms, which is a honey farm in Newberry, talks about the different offerings that they have. And so you can click on the details, and here you can learn more. You can get directed to their site. You can send an email. So again, all of these folks, you can at least have some of that basic contact information and know that they're in your area. The next tool I want to share is some more of a knowledge is power tool. So when we're talking about local produce, we're talking about meat, what are the rules for sourcing? Can you just call someone up and have them deliver? Well, this is, again, going back to knowledge is power. So this is the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development site, and it just talks about approved food sources for food establishments. So it's a great kind of breakdown of just some Q&As of what you need to know when you're sourcing from local folks. If you get into this and have further questions about it, please just reach out and I would be happy to talk through it or connect you with someone who can better answer those questions for you. The next tool I have there is just, I want to kind of call this out, but I'm going to talk about it on the when I talk about the UP Food Exchange. But Michigan has produce safety technicians, which help it's a free and confidential for farms. So it really helps small farms especially make those next steps into being businesses that have like great food safety. So we work with them at the UP Food Exchange. So I'm actually going to dive into that resource next so I can makes a little bit more sense. But wanted to provide this link so that you can learn more about the program and how it could be something to consider when you're putting your own policies in place. So my other job is I am the market manager for the UP Food Exchange. So Taste the Local Difference is connections, it's marketing, it's really local food marketing. versus the Upper Peninsula Food Exchange. And my role there is I am the market manager. So I work with folks that would like to set folks that want to sell or purchase local food in a wholesale market. So this is a wholesale marketplace. It's online and it's for institutional buyers like schools, restaurants, and hospitals or other food service businesses. We work with folks that all the food on here is either has to be grown, made, or raised or foraged in the Upper Peninsula. Again, we will eventually consider expanding, but only after we've really worked with all of the producers in the region. So there's still a long way to go before we get to that point. But here you can kind of see just some products on a glance. Now, I do want to preface this that right now there is a physical food hub in Marquette where I'm able to aggregate deliveries and pickups. So for the Marquette area, you know, what happens is all of these producers deliver to the Marquette Food Co-op, and I have cooler and freezer storage in the basement that I help manage. And so our producers all drop off by a certain date, and then our customers are able to pick up by a certain date. You know, one of my favorite relationships that we have right now is Grand Marais every 2 weeks, which is about almost an hour drive from Marquette. Every 2 weeks they make a drive here and are able to pick up both fresh items, frozen items, and things that they bring back to their community for their customers at their co-op there. So it's a really great relationship. And that being said, if you're outside of that area, we still can use this marketplace to help aggregate. So I have the platform software here allows me, so if I'm working with farms in the eastern region, and then I have a restaurant from, say, St. Ignace sign up, I'm able to make it so that restaurant will only see the food producers that I've vetted that are willing to deliver to that restaurant, if that makes sense. So although there's a product list here that I'm going to show you, if you are in a different region, that product list would look different based on who would be willing to deliver. So basically what would be happening is this kind of aggregation piece. The benefit is that you're purchasing all from, you have one purchase and you can purchase from maybe multiple folks. It's helpful for financials for both the farmer and the restaurant. But know that this is something that exists that will continue to grow and maybe be a more helpful tool in the future. But there's a lot of great things to consider when using this tool. It helps you kind of, I think the piece I want to say is meet the producers first. So here we have our producer page. And right now you'll see I have farms from mostly the Marquette area or like the central Upper Peninsula, but I'm also starting to work with folks in all parts of the UP. And this year we're really trying to get as many folks signed up as we can. So if you're interested in seeing how the UP Food Exchange can work for your business in the Upper Peninsula, please reach out and I would love to kind of talk with you on if it's something that you're interested in. So again, here we have the Meet the Producers, all the folks in the UP, but here we'll go to product page and you can see there's starting to be things already ready. We've got lots of spinach and greens ready here in the central Upper Peninsula. We always have honey, maple syrup, and maple sugar, eggs, duck eggs, wide variety of meats, beef, fish, as well as we're just starting to add, we recently changed it so we can work with specialty producers. Before this was only for fresh produce and meats, and we just edited it. So now we work with all types of specialty producer products. So you'll see we've just recently added things like flour. There's flour that's produced and milled in the Upper Peninsula available here. You'll see I really love how affordable it is. I guess I don't have the prices showing right now because I'm not logged in. But I think it's like $17 for a 50-pound bag. Really great price on this flour. But then anyway, I could talk about all these products. But then here, got coffee and other things. So know that this is in constant growth and we'll be adding more to it. So let me get back to the PowerPoint here and catch my breath. So again, at the end of the day, when it comes to local sourcing, I know I just talked about a lot. I talked about Taste the Local Difference, which will help you just connect to folks. I talked about the UP Food Exchange, which is meant to be this wholesale market that we're looking to grow in the UP. But at the end of the day, if you want to get started, if you have questions, that's my job. So feel free to call me, feel free to email me. I am happy to talk more about this in depth with you individually if you're in the Upper Peninsula, to really have these conversations. And if you happen to be watching this video and you're somewhere else in the state of Michigan, still reach out and I'll connect you to the local food coordinator in your region. So marketing, right? So you made the decision, you have local products on the menu. Now what? How do you make sure, because there's probably going to be a higher price to that and you have a small profit margin. I know how restaurants work. So how do you make the most of that value? So pretty easy. Quality images is the first thing, right? We all know that throughout this presentation, I tried to use some quality images because we're really trying to tell a story. They help people be engaged. People love pictures with people in them. So anytime you can get people in a photo, people love also animals, although that doesn't necessarily always make sense, but maybe it's the beef that you're sourcing and things like that. But something engaging, something that's quality, something that's going to grab folks' attention. I think sometimes, I'd rather have just a few quality images rather than a lot of ones that don't necessarily tell the story. Social media, I feel like we've all, definitely know it exists out there. One of the tools that I'm going to provide today is Taste the Local Difference has created a free content calendar for businesses to use. It's just like a template to kind of help you through how do I plan ahead for social media? And that's kind of one of the things I recommend is just planning ahead, using things like the scheduling on Facebook Business to take 30 minutes, sit down, schedule 3 posts for the week, and then be done if that's how it best works for your business. At the end of the day though, I think the frequency is really up to you in the sense of do it realistically. If you can only post once a week, then just commit to posting once a week. It's recommended to do about 3 times a week. But again, I think the most important thing is to just, have something that makes you accountable. And if you have any questions about using some of these things like Facebook Business, feel free to reach out. So I'll share this link in the chat when we're all done today, but when you get the PowerPoint, you can also click here. So bring you to a form. We just ask you to fill out the form first, and then you'll get a link to that free content calendar. And it is a template of a whole calendar, as well as a lot of prompts to help you think through ideas on what to post, like frequently asked questions, or maybe you have a new producer you want to feature. So just helping some things to help you get the mind going, because it can be a lot. And I think creating content for social media is a pretty exhausting thing. As much as social media is free, that time is still really valuable. So just some stuff to help you get through it. And just a prompt, when you think about content, picking buckets, maybe there's 3 or 4 different things you always post about. You always post about a menu item once a week, you post about a frequently asked question once a week, and you highlight one of your vendors once a week. That's your 3 posts. Of course, you can always change that up, but I think I find it less intimidating if I have just 3 themes that I'm kind of sticking to. So you'll see that is also outlined in that template that I will share. So third-party marketing I want to talk about, because to me it's the least used but best way to talk about your business, and that's why a lot of times third-party marketing can be free and affordable depending on, especially here in the UP, newspapers need something to chat about. So I find it a really useful source. So third-party media is kind of working with other newspapers, working with media companies like Taste the Local Difference, working with folks outside your organization to tell your story. So do you have a media list is kind of my first question. So do you have a list of contacts that you can tap into to tell this story? If you don't, then you can probably find a lot of this information on websites. You can ask around and you'll be able to get some contacts to the media. Also, feel free to reach out to me at Taste the Local Difference. We can talk about how we can help you do something like this. We have a lot of media contacts, and we can work with you in some of those marketing services to help with this. But at the end of the day, it's really easy. Like, it's really just creating a press release. So if you haven't created a press release before, it's pretty simple. And we've actually created a template, which I'll share as well. But so this is what gathering contacts. So whether it's local TV, it's your news stations, it's radio, it's print. It also can be just like organizations that are really important, like maybe in your neighborhood or connected to the type of business. So maybe if you're a restaurant that likes to focus on health sometimes, how can you tap into some of the health organizations in your area, or community organizations? Some of this is as simple as a chamber of commerce. What about other, employers in the area that are around you? Maybe they have a lot of employees. How do you get a poster in there? How do you get a mention in a newsletter? Some of those things. And then, of course, statewide media. Like I said, feel free to reach out to folks like us at Taste the Local Difference. But there's like M Live. These larger media companies. If you really have something exciting and new to tell them, they'll definitely listen. So when you're writing a press release, keep it like at a page max. Also remember you're writing it in third person, so you're really telling your own story. And the reason, basically you're writing it, so say I'm a newspaper, a lot of them just like to take that press release and put that right into the print. And so you send a photo, you send this press release. I more often than not sometimes see it verbatim, put into some of these local newspapers. And then two, just a reminder to follow up. Folks, news is busy. So maybe they didn't see your email last week because it was a lot going on, but maybe send them a bump. Make sure that you're getting that content on their mind. So like I said, we created this template for a free press release, template, and it explains the different information you can put in there. It gives you some ideas. And I think just like the formatting alone is really helpful to have. So I will share that in the chat once I kind of finish up here. And then last but not least, email marketing, which I'm sure, I think it's something we see, we get it in our junk folder sometimes, but I just want to advocate that, you're not going to, every single email you send is not going to get you engagement, but a certain percentage is, and it's usually that percentage that you're probably missing on social media. Folks that do more things on email, folks, I think too, if you have like a lunch special, sending those strategically during the right times of the day to your community, just so that subconscious reminder of like, oh, I am hungry. Like, where should I get lunch today? So, when you do email marketing, you should develop a list of emails, of course. And so there's a lot of different ways to gather those lists, whether you have a sign up on your web page, you could do you could put it on your Facebook, you could share the sign up there and encourage folks to sign up. If you have a square for like your point of sale system or many other types of point of sale systems, some folks opt into sharing their email when they purchase with you. So there's a lot of different ways that you can tap into those audiences to get started. But then once you kind of build your first email campaign, you can also share that out, let people know you're doing it, and then have them kind of use that first or those first few to encourage people to get in the loop and to stay connected. Most importantly, keep them short and sweet. I love a good monthly newsletter. I will say those monthly ones that are a little bit longer, maybe telling more about all the different things. But if you're going to send more than one a month or more than one every maybe 2 weeks, really keep it short and sweet. You don't want to overwhelm people. When I do it, I just like my social media post is also the same as my newsletter. And that way I don't have to really create any new content. I'm just copying, pasting, and formatting all of the same information. But like I said, that email marketing is probably going to hit a different base than that social media. When it comes to marketing, at the end of the day, it's hard because this is a very hectic and busy industry, but, create a schedule. And also too, I just want to advocate for, if you have that right employee in your business, especially younger folks that maybe would like to take on, a little bit more responsibility, folks that are excited to take a photo, how can you empower them to help you do this for your business? Maybe they're in charge of those 3 social media posts a week after you've had a conversation about your voice and how you want those to look. So kind of think about planning ahead, whether it's yourself or someone that you're working with, but start a list, talk about what you want your social to look like, how often you want to post, target your audience, use things like tags and hashtags. I don't think you need to use tons, but especially up here in the Upper Peninsula, things like the Upper Peninsula are a great hashtag to use, especially when we're in the height of tourism season. And then just map it out, keep organized. Maybe you're only going to have time to do this once a week. Maybe you're only going to have time to do this once a month. Maybe you're just planning out social media once a season, however it works for you, but find that moment where you're going to make time for it. So a special shout out to, like I said, to the Eastern Upper Peninsula region planning and development folks. It's been really great to work with them through the years, both in their support through farms and farmers markets. So if you were watching today and you're like, man, I really do need email marketing, or I do want to spend some time learning more about how to find local sourcing or how to market my business online. We have some access to some technical assistance hours from Taste the Local Difference, thanks to the Eastern UP Planning and Development Region. And so basically it's not to necessarily pay for any platforms or anything, but it's to pay for me spending time working with you, whether it's helping to develop these templates or a social media strategy, anything that's going to help you sell more products or grow your business, especially if you have an online marketplace in particular. That's where we've also been doing a lot of work is, I say marketplace, online store. So if you have an online store and you're struggling there too, that is something we have a lot of expertise with, whether it's you're trying to start one from scratch or you just have some bugs you want to work out. So there are some hours if you are a Eastern UP food business and you're looking for some online marketing service help, we can work with you on that. So definitely feel free to reach out if you are interested. So that being said is going to be pretty much everything that I wanted to present today, which I feel like I did pretty good. I wanted to respect everybody's time. I know that was a lot of information as well. But like I said, I just wanted to be able to introduce some of the tools to help get you started, introduce myself and my role so that you can feel comfortable of reaching out and asking for assistance. And like I said, knowing that I'm here.